Hey. All right. Well, welcome everyone to another ERA live session. Today's topic is digital marketing for manufacturers reps. We'll be discussing industry shared best practices for digital marketing in today's world. This discussion is based on a new white paper from the Outpace Rep Group entitled Powering Up Your Brand: Strategies for Successful Marketing and Branding in the Electronics Industry. This white paper, which is available on the ERA website, will show you where. The white paper addresses things like developing an effective brand, common challenges, developing a marketing strategy, leveraging new technology, and more. Walter Tobin, ERA CEO, will introduce today's speakers from the Outpace Group. But before we get started, I would like to remind everyone to please put your devices on mute. And if you would like to ask any questions, those are encouraged, but please either utilize the chat box or the raise hand function. And with that, Walter, I'll turn it over to you.
Good. Thank you very much, Erin. Well, we are really honored to have this white paper presented by the Outpace Group being presented by two very distinguished rep organizations. Tim Kilfoyle is the president of the J.F. Kilfoyle Company, which was founded in 1953. So Tim is a third generation rep leader. So that speaks volumes of the legacy that J.F. Kilfoyle brings to the table. And then certainly we have Terry Straub, who's vice president of Straub Associates, joined by Chris Straub, who's president of Straub Associates, also a rep company founded in 1960. So we have two very long-time rep companies here to lead us, show us the path forward into some of the new exciting areas that the rep organizations need to look at. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tim and Terry and Chris.
Thank you, Walter. And thank you to ERA for giving us this opportunity. Some of you may be wondering who Outpace Rep Group is. We are a subset of reps from within the ERA group. One of the requirements for being a member of Outpace is that you are a member of the ERA organization. So you can think of us similarly to some of the other groups that are around, such as Snowball, No Name, and I'm sure there's many others. So Tim Kilfoyle and myself started talking and thinking about things that kept us up at night, what issues we had as reps that were on our minds, and how we could incorporate those into some development of best practices. So we invited a few other reps from different territories to start to form this group for the betterment of all of the reps, all of the manufacturers, and all of the distributors, because we really wanted to make sure that we included everybody within the ERA family. And so marketing became a natural topic, the number one topic. As those of you attended the ERA convention, you know that it is something important. So we went to work to put together a white paper, and Jordan Yates, a seasoned marketing professional, helped us to really put this in what we think is a really good presentation form. So thank you, Jordan, for that. And thank you, Tim. Next slide. Thank you to my colleagues and our team. These are the other members of the Outpace Group as it is today. And we did this as a team. We hope that you find some interesting information here. We encourage questions and look forward to your suggestions and inputs as well.
Great. So I'll take over from here. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, super. So as Terry said, we've put this paper together as a group. I'm going to do presenting on this, and the intention here is to help walk you through what we did in putting the paper together. To be honest with you, there's a lot of table setting that I'm going to be doing, and there's a lot of commentary that I'm going to be providing, like it or not. It's a topic that I have interest in. And I guess the baseline here is, as a group, we're looking to help support every rep organization out there within the ERA. Distributors, manufacturers don't have the same level of need as it comes to launching themselves into or onto the path of marketing. We feel that this is a position that we want reps to get better in. So let's start here. 3 presumptive truths as it relates to our discussion. So again, with sincerity, I want all of us to improve in this area, and I'm speaking here primarily of representatives. I want us to all include marketing in the scope of our businesses, because the better we become at this, the more important we are to our manufacturers. I like to use the term sticky. We make ourselves sticky to the manufacturers. I don't want to give them any reason to let any of us go. Moreover, though we aren't quite there, we know that down the road there are going to be opportunities for us to do a little bit more data gathering. There's going to be some more lead gen opportunities, et cetera. There's opportunities for us to improve our websites. I've seen most of your websites, in fact, and that really needs to be a topic of its own as we move forward. How can we build sites that are lead generation ready? Marketing ready, yes, but really lead generation ready. And I'm talking here about capturing things like data from customer visits and so forth. How can we drive people to the websites? But marketing is step 1. So part of why I'm preaching this to everybody is because I'm going to go through really a single step today with you, and that is on brand. As Terry said, we did a breakout session during the last ERA. And we might have even done one prior to that on marketing as well. The one thing that we left with, though, is sort of this whole on brand. We always sort of presume people know it. It's a big part of this paper. In fact, it covers the first 10 of 30 pages in this paper. So yes, it's a long paper. It looks more like an infographic, though, so it's quite easy to get through. It's sort of in bite-sized bits. It's intended to be that way to help you get through it. But at any rate, we really want to cover the topic of brand, and it's more than just brand development. There are tools and campaigns which you're going to be establishing with your marketing people, and yes, you will have marketing people, and there are other steps to take as well, but not intending to get any of you overwhelmed. Our intention is to just get started. So the goal here is to help those of you who think you may want to do this, but need a little bit of a push. So I do want to read through these 3 presumptive truths. You probably haven't sat and read through the paper yet. That's okay. I'm going to show you where you can find it. I'm going to ask you to read it, though, after you're finished with this call, because I'd love for you to take action on this. And the topic of marketing is important, and I think it's going to be important for the rest of your career. And I think really we all need to get better at it. Second presumptive truth. You may have some position of leadership within your organization, at least where marketing is involved. And if so, you will play an important role in getting marketing established and growing within your organization. You may be in a position where you get to manage marketing for your own book of business or customer list. This would be someone like a salesperson, an account manager within an organization. This applies equally to you. You at some point will argue the point of marketing ROI. ROI always comes up as a topic when it relates to marketing. It will come up, you may fight back against it, and you may not have the fortitude to stay consistent with it, but I'm asking you to do it anyway because it is a necessity, and we will come back to we will come back to ROI as a topic later today. Before I start, where to find the information. So this is what the paper looks like. It's several pages. I said earlier, it's 30 pages. Go to the ERA homepage, and across the top on the header there, you'll see a section for publications. Go down to white papers and standards and click on it. It's going to take you to the white papers and standards page, and there at the very top, lo and behold, is a link to the paper. So that is where you can find it. It's on the website right now. So you're here for a lot of reasons. I bet many of you are interested in marketing. I bet a lot of you are interested in knowing where some of the other reps are, the ones that you may consider competitors. That's fine. That's great to have you here to see what your competitors are up to. Something I'd like to challenge everyone here who's a rep is to look at your competitors as your colleagues. I'm challenging you to soften your position as a competitor against your other reps, not just today, but consistently in the industry. Our colleagues and competitors may not always be lined up in the categories that we think they are. So for example, the accounting colleague at your supplier, well, they may be wearing two hats. Your colleagues are often the people that you're out selling against. And I think in something like this, where we can help one another, that's my intention. Lift everybody up in marketing, make this something that we're all better at, make the reps as an industry stronger. It's what we want. The reps are the best way to get new products to the market faster in this hemisphere, period. I believe that, you should believe that. And if you don't believe it, please pass the reins of your organization off to the next best qualified person in your office and have them get involved in a local ERA chapter. Reps are the answer to this marketplace. As our industry continues to chirp louder about the role of marketing in the reps scope, whether you've seen it with your current manufacturers or not, it's likely you will. And if you haven't among the manufacturers on your current line card, then certainly as you go out and try to win new ones, you're likely to see it as a requirement. I'm just going to mention that marketing, similar to CRM, if you've been through the process of adopting a CRM, it really has to be adopted from the top down. So again, if you're a leader in an organization, great. You're going to need to buy into this and push it all the way down through the rest of the organization. If you're somewhere else in the organization, but you understand the value of marketing, you will want to do your level best to make sure you can help support the efforts of your organization through the consistent pushing and promoting of these marketing efforts. I know firsthand in our organization, pushing this from the top down and making sure that everyone's engaged in what we're trying to do is important. It's an investment, and in order for it to be successful, everyone has to participate. If you brought a pen and paper, this is where I would like you to write something down. If you've decided you're only going to invest a few $100s from your budget to spend on developing a marketing strategy, either this month or this quarter or this year, brand is where you want to spend it. So if you're going to work on amplifying your brand across platforms and into the inboxes of your customers, your employees are going to see it, your manufacturers are going to see it, random people who may feel compelled to blurt something out on LinkedIn are going to see it. So for the sake of everything that you've worked for on brand development and brand discovery, get this part right. If you're part of an organization who believes you want to move forward with marketing, I suggest a marketing professional. It's worth looking into. From my own experience, we started with a fractional marketing director, and we are frankly still there. We're on our third one, not because there are any issues prior to them. One of them left the industry. One of them we weren't actually happy with, and we quickly shifted. The one we're with now is wonderful. She has a ton of horsepower in terms of her capabilities, but we still don't have the budget for a full-time marketing director. And you don't need to have one. You can use one on a 2-hour, 4-hour, 6-hour per week basis, or a 4-hour per month basis. It doesn't actually matter, but getting the vision and the capability of someone who's a professional in this space is worth it. In addition to getting great output, you won't have to worry about the burden that it puts on your bandwidth. Let someone else worry about that. So marketing. Let us think of marketing as, in its simplest terms, the expression of your business's products and services into the public market space. So we're going to distinguish that from sales, which in its simplest form, again, sales, the exchange of goods or services for an amount of money or its monetary equivalent. They're different things. Sales does not equal marketing. Brand. Who are you? So this is the first point. As I bring up the bullet point, the first point is developing or really discovering your brand. You have one, whether you know it or not, you have a brand. And to illustrate this in the paper, we use the euphemism of marketing beach. So we do this to emphasize a point. Briefly, it's a hot summer afternoon, much like today where I was. A tired executive is walking onto a beach with 10 pounds of things falling out of a 5-pound bag. She's focused on getting herself and her things to a spot on the beach, if only she can find one. As you watch this unfolding, you notice her sunglasses are sliding off her head. She doesn't stop to fix them. Rather, they fall further and further, then awkwardly flip off of her head, spinning as they land 3 feet in front of her. Before she realizes what's happened, she takes one more step and winces when she hears the crack and crunch of the glasses as they meet their end, destroyed. You look closer and could swear that she has the flip-flops on her feet, on the wrong feet. And after trudging her last 3 steps, she drops her things onto a bare piece of ground and pulls out a towel that contains the pizza grease and suntan lotion stains of seasons long ago. You haven't watched her for 60 seconds yet, but you've got a pretty good idea of her brand. And I know we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, fair enough. But in the marketplace of component suppliers and marketing consumers, you have very little time to make a first impression. So it has to be a good one. Brand. The executive on the beach had one, and you perceived it quickly. A messy, overstuffed bag, flip-flops, flipped glasses, crushed frames, dirty beach towel. She will probably not get an RFQ and certainly is not going to get a last look. This is brand. You aren't going to sit with someone to develop this. You're going to sit with someone who's going to help you discover it, reveal it. They're going to do it through a process of discovery by asking you questions, you providing answers. They provide thoughtful digging, prodding, etc. It's important to have a third party, not you, not your partner, not someone else in the office do this. It's important to have a professional help you with this. As I said before, if you're going to spend any money on a marketing endeavor or strategy, start with brand. Next, brand messaging. These are the phrases, the words, the content building blocks. It's your vision statement, your tagline, your frequently used phrases, which will become the building blocks of your marketing pieces, the content you create. Certain phrases are unlikely to change. In fact, you've been in business for years and you know the way that you think of your business. You know the way you like to describe it. You know the things that you do well. These are the phrases that are always going to tie the customer back to your brand. So they need to be meaningful. They need to be short. They need to be brief. They need to be genuine, but they need to tie explicitly back to your brand. Your brand will become a voice. It's a familiar, relevant voice that customers recognize and associate with the materials, the products, the services, and the ideas that you present to them. So you want it to be authentic. You want it to be genuine. You want it to be trustworthy. So you're going to use the phrases which are meaningful to you as a brand, as a company, as a solution. So I'm going to check my watch because I'm verbose and I know this. So my most ardent advice to you, again, get professional help to walk through the brand development pieces, also through the messaging. You not only want to get these right, but you want to have confidence in them. You're going to use them again and again and again. The last thing you want to do is have something that you're not confident throwing out into the public market space. You want it to be something that you can build your business on. Third, brand narrative. Brand narrative is the story of your company in a nutshell. It's the what, the why, the how, the who. Similar to our one-liner. I'm going to share ours. Do you ever lie awake at night wondering if parts will arrive on time? This is the customer, the who, and the customer what. Again, do you ever lie awake at night wondering if parts will arrive on time? Kilfoyle delivers trusted suppliers and customized engineering solutions. It's the supplier what and the supplier who, so you can build great designs with peace of mind, the supplier why. Now, I don't often break those down into what all those pieces are, but I'm stating the problem, I'm providing a solution. The narrative is providing even more detail than the problem statements and why you're uniquely positioned to provide the solution. It may actually include more like a philosophical stance, something that could say, we believe, which is common in a lot of brand narratives that are out there. It could even include a call to action. It could even include a guarantee. We don't happen to have those in ours, but it could. So ROI. Well, we'll come back to that. Everything that we've discussed today is in the paper. It's under this initial step, which we call entering the arena. This is simply you making the determination that you want to enter the arena of marketing. So that's really what it's about. Again, the first section of the paper covers this, and we spend a lot of time covering brand. But in an effort to illustrate what these marketing ideas, where they're useful, and I guess it's a way for me to push to you sort of how the marketing comes to life on a daily basis, maybe for you, maybe for me. I just want to share this with you as well. How is marketing going to be important to my business? Why? Well, end customers. Again, this is all straight out of the paper. You're going to read this again, but who does your customer sell to? End customers. This is what you think of when you think of marketing and the need in your business, but there are others. So for example, In addition to, say, a Northrop Grumman, GM, Apple, Tesla, many cases we're selling through distributors and channel partners, TTI, Arrow, DigiKey, et cetera. And you're going to want to market to them when you have a new line, when you have a new registration program, when you're running a new promotion, things like that. It's just one other place where you're going to need to market product. How about manufacturers? Prospective manufacturers, ones that you want to get either to trade up or add to your line card. They want to know who you are, who your people are, how you operate in the marketplace, et cetera. One other place that you want to market. How about prospective employees? You're looking to add people in new territories. You want to beef up your sales force for whatever reason. You want employees out there, prospective employees, to know who you are and how they can find you and why they need to know who you are, period. How about the business owner who's looking to grow their business? You might be looking to enter into a new territory. You may know another rep who's out there looking to develop an exit strategy, et cetera. The point is, it's a fifth area where you as a rep need to have some marketing exposure into the marketplace. One more reason to have this. Earlier, I said we would come back to the point of ROI. Again, this is something that always comes up as a discussion of marketing. So I presume as business owners and stewards of good investments, you're going to want to know as well. So topic of ROI, I've actually added a couple of other points here, which are equally as likely to come up. And they all rest at some degree on a level of faith. So I added them to this slide. So we'll call these the 3 actual truths as it relates to marketing. Number 1, you will ask, though you will not receive, a satisfactory answer on ROI, period. That is an actual truth. So ROI is not the same for marketing as it is for sales. All of us here likely know the sales process. In rough terms, let's go through it. You make a prospect call. You get a response. You gain traction through meeting with the decision makers, developing the project scope, presenting the product or service for qualification. You make and present the proposal. You engage in negotiation, and you win. What was your ROI there? Well, let's see. You made one prospect call and you got a win. Yay me. Sales is easy. But let's state clearly, marketing is decidedly not sales. So when we defined sales earlier, the exchange of goods and services for an amount of money or its monetary equivalent. This is what happened in the sales process, but through a long exchange leading up to the win. Marketing is not like this. Marketing, you should look at, is window shopping. It is information presenting. It is idea proposing. It is the real estate sign that's in your neighbor's yard that says the Smith team has just gotten another sale. And you've seen these yard signs. And no, they aren't splashing photos from New Year's Eve where they had a great time and one eye's closed and they've got drool coming out of their mouth, because that would not be good for their brand. They have one shot to impress you, and they do it with a professional looking photo on their yard sign. But they aren't out counting up the yard signs and then figuring out exactly how many opportunities they've gotten as a result of those and then providing a nice, clean ROI. It's just not the way it works. So they're going to show you exactly, well, sorry, I've made notes here and I've gotten off them. They're not counting up all the old signs and that they've placed along the territory and measuring the number of new clients, or as we had in our example before, making one call and getting one win, because generally speaking, you're going to have made 30 or 35 calls before the one call and 17 or 20 after that and still have the one sale. So the point is, there's a lot of window shopping that happens among your customers or along this purchasing path for your customers. But if we look at marketing as a window on your customer's path, that path will ultimately lead to a need at a time of a purchase. So again, you're presenting information along the way. You're helping them understand through your brand what it is that's important to you, what it is that should be important to them. It's going to be a constant, consistent presence that you're providing them. So for example, you have a college student that recently graduates from college and they need a credit card. You haven't actively looked for a credit card in years because that's just not generally the way it happens for someone like us. But for our kids in a new market for credit cards, just getting out of school, what are they going to do? They're likely going to find a Capital One card because they advertise so frequently. And they've been advertising to your kids and to us for years, and we just haven't bitten, except With a recent college grad, they need a card. And lo and behold, the new face of Capital One is Taylor Swift, who's out on tour right now. So likely that person just getting out of college is going to go looking for that credit card. I mean, you can see the tie-in. It makes a whole lot of sense. The student who is now a graduate is on the path needing this card. The window dressing, the drip campaigns, the marketing journey, the buyer's path, Capital One has been there the whole time. I use them as an example because it's an easy one for someone who doesn't often come into the market for a credit card, but when it's there, they're going to reach out to something that they've been looking at for years. So this is in fact bringing us to the second point. You will be on the marketing path for the rest of your career. So in order to stay in front of the customer, you need just to do just that, stay in front of the customer, but not in an annoying way, but in a relevant way. So I encourage a couple of things to consider here. First, alignment with your brand. So I'm talking here from two different perspectives, because as a sales rep, you want to promote to the customer and you want them to align with the expectations that they can have for your brand. You're going to spend money developing the brand. You're going to invest in this. You're going to work on it. You want to make sure that they're aligning all of those expectations that you've created for your brand with their actual experience. At the same time, though, as reps, we're out promoting our manufacturer's brand as well. I'm going to tell you as a rep, it's important to have both. Yes, it's important to manage the expectations for the customer experience on your manufacturer's brand. It's important for you to have your own. It's the only way you're going to be out there. I showed you before the 5 areas where you're likely to have, I can promise you, those are 5 areas that you need to have a presence with respect to your company's brand. But you're going to do this for your supplier, your principal. You're going to do it also for yourself. The second point here is to make sure that you're creating in the midst of this a voice. And you want to do this for your business, because the voice that you're creating online, the voice that you're creating with these account-based marketing pieces is the voice that your customer is going to come to recognize. Yes, they're going to see your brand and they're going to recognize it for what it is. You know, value creation, it's going to be trustworthy, it's going to be genuine. But in the midst of this, if you're going to be doing this in places like LinkedIn or other social media, we just heard Walter say, as we got on this call today, that he joined up on Threads, and I think he's already up to 12 posts. But the point is, he's got a voice now that he's going to be promoting out through Threads. You've got a voice for your own company that you're going to be promoting out onto LinkedIn. Make sure it's genuine, make sure it's authentic, make sure that everything that you're doing is at the very least in line with what your manufacturers are expecting. You have a responsibility as a contracted sales agent for your manufacturers to do everything the right way. You just want to make sure you're aligned with everything that they want you to be doing. You don't want to be the town crier hawking the latest semiconductor product or the latest whatever it is. It doesn't really matter, but you know when you're going over the edge in terms of hawking a product, that's not really what your customers want. Your customers want to envision, and I liken this to the description of a corridor or a hallway in one of your customers' offices. You want to envision them walking down that hallway, and you're in one of the offices having a discussion about one of your products, or you're in an office having a discussion about a service that one of your manufacturers provides. You want it to be as authentic and welcoming so that your customer who's walking down the hallway wants to peek their head in and listen to what it is that you have to say, because there are a lot of ways to turn a customer off online. Last here is the point on marketing. It is going to lead to a lot of other things. And I don't want to go too deep into those points. I put them there because I want you to be able to read them and understand that this is the first step. It's going to lead to a lot of other good opportunities. I see marketing as an opportunity for an opportunistic rep company to go out and make a position for themselves, stake a position for themselves in marketing. It's a first step into something which would be lead generation as well, which I see as the next great step to take in this area. There will be a third one, which I can't really describe well now, but it has to do with data collection and so forth, which is not where it needs to be in terms of its ease of use for reps. Our manufacturing partners and our distributor partners are better equipped and better financed to get into that before we do. But seeing how quickly things become easy in this space, and I mean to say automation, there is going to be opportunity for us down the road, but you need to take the first step in marketing to get there. So I'm going to finish here with an absolute. Yes, you can do this. Honestly, getting yourself going is not a difficult endeavor. It's going to take planning. It's going to take a strategy, but it's something you can do with an internal team and hopefully with professional help that you can bring on either in a part-time way, in a fractional way, just to get started. You can get good enough at this at the level you need to probably do this on your own. It just takes bandwidth. So if you're willing to give up bandwidth, you can do it. I think that certainly there's a way to do it without overwhelming yourself in terms of time, but then also overwhelming your budget. There are scheduling tools you can use. You can schedule LinkedIn posts, you can schedule emails. This is more the mechanics of getting into exactly how the marketing machine can work for you. You can do things on a quarterly basis. My suggestion is if you do take this on yourself, you get very close to your suppliers' product managers as well as the marketing people. We've done that with our own manufacturers, and they're all too eager to take your help. And I can tell you firsthand, they're all too eager to have you doing some of this work for them. Another good way is to just start with a couple of your manufacturers, or say 20% or 50%, 80% of your manufacturers. It doesn't really matter, but I would start with something smaller just to get started. And that, in fact, is the goal here, just to get started without getting overwhelmed. I'm finishing up here, but I've got a few more ideas I just want to throw at you. The ERA is sort of focusing on this. One of the things they're focusing on, I know they're looking at sort of, I'll say Walter's gone all in on the early career members of the ERA. This is sort of the euphemism we use for the younger generation within the ERA, because we know we need new blood in this industry. In the ERA, it's welcome. It's a great thing. I applaud it. I think it's great. There are other changes, though, going on in our industry that I'm wanting to underscore for you all. So again, the younger generation, that's great. The other needs I see in this industry that are changing. So as an example, the hyperscaling among distributors, what I call hyper consolidation among our customers and suppliers. We've got the global decentralization from the recent trend of the consolidation of manufacturing in China. So now it's focusing out of China. And we're also seeing a record amount of manufacturing facilities being built in the US. I don't know if you know this or not. So this graph, I just wanted to share with everyone because I've got your attention, was in the Wall Street Journal last week. It's a 20-year picture, month by month, of investment in factories in the United States of America. And I just want you to look at where it's led. Look at this. Over the past 3 months, it has really skyrocketed. So it's a very good thing for us. It's a very good thing for our country. It's a good thing for the ERA, which operates here in the US. It's great. It bodes well for our future. And as I've said before, reps are the best way to get new products to the market faster in this hemisphere, period. So I did this a little bit for Walter, but I'm really doing it for everybody. You've probably seen this before. This is a guy named Ted Williams, and he played baseball. So why is he on the screen, and what does it mean? Well, yes, I want you to engage in marketing for your business. I feel strongly it will help you and all of us by improving the services and the market knowledge that you serve on behalf of your manufacturers. But maybe you feel like marketing is not your sweet spot. That's okay. Just to explain this graph quickly, Ted Williams knew if he focused on those 3.5 balls there in the middle, that's where he was going to get the best return on his effort. He tried not to focus on any of the blues, yellows, and oranges. He looked for the reds. If he only swung at the red balls, meaning the ones right there at the heart of the zone, he was going to do incredibly well. And of course he did. So if you don't feel marketing's in your sweet spot, it's okay. There are things that I know that are best for my business that I neither have a good skill at and I'm not interested in learning. So in those cases, I go out and find help. I get other people to come in, experts, and so forth. So I'm encouraging you to get a professional to get you started if you feel like this is not something that you're going to be good at. But you don't have to stop there. You can actually bring a professional in and hire them on. I mean, having them as a part of your business is not necessarily a bad thing. I think long term, they're going to help you look at the trends that are going on in marketing and some of those next steps as well. It's also going to aid in your bandwidth. I know from my own perspective, as we add these different services in for our manufacturers, they all weigh on bandwidth, and it can be a dangerous position to get yourself in. But the point is, you don't need to be a Ted Williams and you don't need to be a master of marketing to get this done. Get support, get started, get familiar with the process, and grow. Thanks everyone very much. Terry Straub will now be answering any of your questions.
Terry and Tim, first of all, Tim, that was great. I have a question that was texted to me Two questions. First of all, you want to enter the arena, get started. Where do you find people? Where do you find this marketing person with a Swiss Army knife with all sorts of different tools? Number one, where do you find them? Secondly, can you comment on the part-time, hiring an outside, a hired gun versus an employee, and maybe the pluses and minuses of that? So maybe Terry or Chris or Tim, maybe comment on those two questions that somebody texted me.
Chris, do you want to answer? Or you want me to?
You can go ahead, Terry.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go. So I think that, your chapters are great vehicles for communication. And of course, the whole ERA is great. I would encourage to ask your other reps, because I know within our ERA NorCal, we've had lots of tabletop conversations about what they're doing for marketing. Straub Associates, we've had a tiny bit of outside help, but we've tried to do a lot of it ourselves. But as we've been doing that, we're similar to Ted Williams' sweet spot. We've recognized that we're not good at some of that. And there are some new tools and techniques out there, some automated tools that can make it much easier than the old way that we're trying to do that. So I think talking to your colleagues, I'm certain if you Google it, there's people out there, but within specifically for the rep model, I think finding from your colleagues is probably the best thing to do. It's my recommendation. And people, you can do hourly, you can do daily. There's all kinds of consultants and marketing people that do other things on the side. Some may be available through some of your principals to help you. So I think that there's many options that start from hourly, and obviously the other end of the spectrum would be a full-time employee.
So what we did is we initially started out just providing basically a contact list from our CRM of contacts that we had tagged with a specific product category, power. And Ellen Albright at ETA, who's been at many of the ERA conferences, along with Graham Kilshaw and some other experts in the industry, went and did a drip email marketing campaign. So I kind of learned from that, and I simply got Constant Contact and did another version on my own. The beauty of that is that when you're sending out these drip emails, they're coming from your sales team, your salespeople. So when our customers see them, they go, oh, that's from Jacob or Ben or Terry or Dennis, and they will tend to open them up. So our open rate is much higher than the industry standard, at least per Constant Contact. Although I'll be the first to admit that taking the next step and getting into design creation, content type creation, if our principals don't have it, or getting more proficient at it, is something that's really beyond what I want to do personally, or really can do. And so we're looking into hiring somebody on a part-time basis, kind of just buying a certain number of hours a month type of deal or something like that. That is somewhat flexible, and to move forward and to more completely expand into this marketing effort.
Walter, to hit that question on the specific of where do you find them? So Terry had really great ideas going through the chapter. The other is if you know any marketing people within your manufacturers that you like the most, asking them for support. Generally speaking, they're going to be a part of an industry organization as well, and they could probably find someone. The great thing about the way we all operate today is they don't actually have to be in your city. They can, ours happens to live in Tennessee. I've never met her face to face, but she's great, and she does everything that we need her to do and ask her to do and more. but she's not local, and yours doesn't have to be either. So I would say if you know a marketing professional at one of your manufacturers, go to them and ask for some ideas with respect to an industry organization they could be a part of, a professional organization, and get started there. Just get a few ideas. Network, and not that you need to network within it, but that's really where you get these ideas and connections started. So that's really what I would do. I just, from experience, I'm just going to tell you what our own situation was, because I think maybe that was the root of one of these questions. How did you get in touch with someone? Well, I happen to know the person. I went to school with them, and we took them on for 20% of their time. So, 20% of the week is what we started with. He had kids entering college, and he needed a full-time gig, so to speak, and he hadn't filled all of his hours. So he only had like 60% of his hours filled. So he had to go get a full-time job. And so we lost him. So he helped us find a new person. Well, that new person, we just did not gel with him. And so we jumped to somebody else. And that person was someone that we had worked with at another one of our manufacturers. So I speak from experience there as well, that starting with your manufacturers is a great place to go. Networking and getting connections through other marketing professionals. You may feel like it's outside of your wheelhouse, but these people exist within your manufacturers already. So I would say start there.
Good. Thank you, Tim. Erin, are there any questions coming out of the chat room?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions from Jeff. Jeff, would you like to unmute yourself and ask Terry and Tim your questions?
Yeah, hey guys.
Hi.
So I guess my question is on a rep website, we don't really have as much of the extensive information as our manufacturers do. So what's an effective way to capture a lead that's coming onto the rep website? How do we, what kind of call to action do we use, or what's a form, or what are we kind of trading for them? The second part of my question is basically that customers are looking for value, and on the rep website, maybe we don't have as much value as just steering them back to the manufacturer. So what can we be giving them that's going to inspire them to, kind of turn over their information to us, or a way to capture that lead?
So that's an important question that we've been, that's frankly the heart of what we're trying to do right now. So where I talk about this being an opportunity for reps to separate themselves from the pack, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So what did we do in our brand narrative, which was, we have it in a text form. We also have it in a video form. In the text form, we put a call to action at the bottom of it. And that was, as we reach out to customers, click here to get the latest. In our case, it was to get the latest it's a filtered product where they could go from, it's basically what you see on the DigiKey or Mauser website, where you filter everything down to the specific parts you're looking for. So if I want this voltage, I want this capacitance value, I want this, package size, I want this, it'll take you exactly to that part. So this is a tool that was developed by one of our manufacturers, and we use that to say, hey, click here and we'll email it to you. Well, that's one way to get traffic across your website and then capture an email address. Have them enter it willingly in order to get a copy of that filter tool. Another one is, I can't answer it well today, but we're working on getting all of our web pages perfect in the eyes of Google. It's an investment. It's not really easily done. It takes time, it takes money, and you have to constantly look at it because the algorithms change regularly. But we're getting everything ready to turn it into a lead generating machine. And I don't say that lightly, because we've invested in the marketing platform from Microsoft through their Dynamics product is, it's a decent investment, and it's a monthly maintenance fee, but it is going to generate the leads that we want, and all of it is going to be coming out of the website. I wish I could give you a better answer on that. I'm actually not there yet. We've spent so much time on getting the marketing pieces in place. the lead generation, SEO, and website health is really the next place for us to go. But let me step back and take one broader swing at this. Everything that you said is right with respect to 99% of the manufacturers reps that are out there today. Now, this is just based on my own research in talking to a lot of rep companies. What I will tell you is I see the opportunity to take much of that into our own hands by driving the customers to our website. You're right. What can we do that isn't really just us at the end of the equation pushing them off to the manufacturer? Well, keeping them on your website through content development of your own, pulling in content from your manufacturer's website, creating some data hub on your website so that there's useful information for your customers to use. Again, part of this is creating a voice through marketing where your customer knows Jeff's the guy that I want to go to. He's got all of those tools on his website. Every time I go there, I find something new. Can you do that? You can try. Ultimately, the manufacturer is going to have more depth likely on their website. I'm not discounting or saying that that's not true. What I'm saying is create the voice, create the expectation, let the customer know that you've got more tools on your website for more manufacturers than just the one that you're probably going to hand them off to. Not a great way of answering your question, except to say the tools are going to continue to get better. I hate to just throw AI in there, but I'm going to throw it in there because it's developing so rapidly. A lot of these tools are going to be more accessible to us through, tools that aren't even out there yet, but they're coming quickly. So again, marketing step one, take the first step, enter the arena, get the tools in place. As these things start coming down the pike, grab them and use them to your advantage. I'm just going to end my thoughts with this. Don't let that data become the sort of ownership of your manufacturers. Sure, they have access to it, but you're their contracted sales force and you should have access to it as well. So pull it across your website, capture what you can. If at the end of the day you don't have anything more to offer them, throw them off to your manufacturer's website. That's fine as well. But get the data so that you have at least an opportunity to use it. But just being a pass-through or an electronic business card, there's so much more out there that reps can be using their websites for. Again, it takes investment and it takes time, but I think we all need to work harder on improving them. And I'm encouraging all of you to work hard to improve that because I think that there's more and more opportunity, coming at us.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Chuck Tanzola. Looks like you have a couple of questions. Would you like to unmute yourself?
Sure, and thanks. So thanks, Tim and Terry and Chris for your presentation. Tim, you made a very clear distinction that sales and marketing are different. And but the traditional, and I agree with that, by the way, but the traditional rep contract is focused 100% on sales, or at least, majority on sales. So as I look at it, I think of our job we have to market our own company, but we also will end up marketing our principals. I'm wondering if you've given any thought to when we're providing the service of marketing for the principals, how that might impact future rep contracts.
Yeah, so actually I've gone to Walter and I did this podcast, this spring, Walter, and we raised that point as it relates to support. Now, that isn't necessarily written into a hard contract, but I don't see any reason why it can't be. I've promoted the idea of, I'm always sensitive to knowing exactly who's on this phone call, but I'm just going to give you my candid thoughts on this. It's very difficult. So I'm just talking to you right now and pretending that nobody else is here. It's very difficult as a manufacturer's rep to tell other reps to invest in this stuff when at the end of the day, I can't go to my manufacturers and say, you know what, I've invested so heavily in marketing, my CRM, my tools, my systems, the processes I have, I would put them up against anybody. I'm not saying I'm the best rep organization, but I'm saying that we've got better systems in place demonstrably. I want you to change my contract from 5% to 7%. They would tell me to go pound salt, shortly after they would tell me no. And you couldn't do it either, Chuck. I would bet that you can't go to your manufacturer and say, you know what, I can demonstrate that I'm better than every other rep territory that you have out there. I want 8% instead of 6%. It's just not going to happen. So how do you do it? How do you continue to invest in these things? We know we need to do it. We know we need to stay relevant by keeping up pace with these distributors that have gone from 500 million to $1 billion to 10 billion to 15 billion in sales, our manufacturers that are going from 100 million to $1 billion to multi-billion. And look at us, we're mom and pop organizations that are smaller. We live inside a territory and we have no control over our margins, none. They do. They can raise price. They can do a whole lot of things in order to raise margin to make new investments. It is tough for a manufacturer's rep to make these investments when they have zero control over their margins. It actually goes the other way when we just get everything cut as things go into different territories and different places. We're all in that same boat together. So I don't mean to say I'm experiencing this differently than you are. But what I am saying is I do think there needs to be some shift in the way we present ourselves and our services to our manufacturers. If they expect us to maintain pace, at least with them and with the distributors and customers and all of these investments, then there's got to be some space for growth. Give me a milepost, give me a goal, let me hit it. And if I hit it, make good on, I don't know, an extra percent, an extra 2%. Those are some of the things that I think are going to have to change if we're going to continue to have to invest in these things. And I know I'm saying these are investments that I really think all reps should make, not that we have to make them, but I do think that staying relevant and capturing the best lines to sell for in our marketplace means having some additional level of margin that we can use to make these investments. Now, maybe it comes down to co-op dollars, maybe it comes down to some other agreement. I will tell you, I'm like you, Chuck. I can look at the marketplace and, I see John Hudson and he's growing, and I look at Mike in the upper Midwest and he's growing. That really is the way that you do it. If you're not going to be allowed to grow your margin through increased commissions with your manufacturers, is the answer growing your footprint? You might know something about that too. And I think therein lies maybe one of the answers, but I do think some structural changes to the contracts is coming. I can tell you also, we have released one paper and it's on marketing, but we haven't told you about our second paper yet. So it's coming and it leans on some of those structural changes. It may not be hitting exactly what you want, but those are exactly the reasons we wanted to just put this little group together and start tackling these ideas that we think, frankly, are necessary moving forward. Our industry is changing more than a lot of people really, I will say, acknowledge. I look on LinkedIn and I see people put posts like, it's still a people industry. Well, of course it is. But decades ago when people called it a people industry, there was no such thing as artificial intelligence and automation and requirement for marketing and holding meetings with 100 people all the way across the country at the same time. Things are changing. And in order to keep pace with them, look at TTI 15 years ago at $100 million in sales. They're double-digit billions right now. So things are changing. And I think that maybe the contracts will likely have to see some change as well.
Hey, Tim and Chuck, just a side comment. I mean, this is a fascinating discussion. Good job today. One of the things that, a couple of things. One is marketing to generate opportunities and actually get more customers. So we do it because we think it's good for that, not to charge for it. We think we can cover more customers with it. And I'm not saying it's the right approach, but that's the way we look at it. But one thing a point I wanted to make is how often do we struggle to prove our value back to our principals? It's a struggle. The VP of sales may not have the biggest voice on the C-level suite, right? The CFO can get us, other people can get us. What if now we have an advocate in their VP of marketing as well, speaking on how they want our company and how they like the reps? What an opportunity, right? To have another seat on the bus with the C-level suite. So maybe you don't get the commission increase from 5 to 8, Tim. I love it. Maybe we can do that still, but maybe we don't get the decrease, or maybe we don't get the probation letter. Maybe we create stickiness with that line. So I think there's a additive value beyond the commission rate on line retention and proving your value back to principals. I just want to make a comment and then I'll drop off.
Chris, why don't you comment on that line retention as it relates to marketing?
I think it's really just become a mandatory part of what a rep has to provide is some level of marketing. The drip email is a way to take what is the most valuable asset that reps have besides their own people, and that's our contacts. We have the relationships. We've built them up over many, many, many years. And, when the pandemic hit, we had all their cell phones, so we could, give a call to, Fred, who's, an engineer at Apple, and he's like, sorry, honey, I can't take care of the baby. Chris is calling. He's like, oh, thank God you called. So with those relationships, we can go out and we can get the lead generation so we can increase the sales. That's one little part of the whole marketing thing that Tim brought up, but it is a way to retain lines. And I've heard of principals who have said, you don't have a marketing plan, so we're terminating you. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think if we don't all do this in some fashion, whether it's just starting with, identifying some customers, putting out some emails with some content in there that they have to click on to get a white paper, then the principal can provide that white paper. We put it on our website or our, Dropbox or something like that they can access. And whether we provide something, and then I saw a comment in here about, 80% free and 20%, the real jewels you put behind a lead generation form, but just getting their emails or anybody else who happens to see it. And then when we go to LinkedIn, it can also expand beyond just who our initial contacts were.
Okay, I think we have a couple of minutes left. Bruce Scoggin, you have a question? Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hey, the thing you juggle all the time when you're trying to create a website is who you're going to address. So we have a customer that we all call on and have this great relationship with, and a customer principal, which we hope we have a great relationship with. How do you make all that work with your website?
So I can comment on that. It's hard to be all things to all people. And so I think that, changing your website and putting things that are relevant there, but again, you have to enter the arena. So when people go to your website, you want them to know who you are. And I think the thing is to be consistent, to be professional, consistent, and interesting. I know I'm not directly answering your question, but I think that those are some of the metrics that you need to use, because yes, principals that are looking for lines are going to go to your website. And then we have our customers. We're always trying to drive our customers to our website. And so it is a slippery slope, but I think being relevant and consistent and that brand messaging, so that when somebody goes to your website, regardless of who they are, they know, they get a feeling for who you are.
Yeah, Bruce, I would add to that, sitting with someone to help go through that brand discovery process, a lot of the questions that they're going to ask are, who is the customer? I know this because I sat through it and I juggled that question the same way you will juggle it, which is to say, well, we have many customers. We've got the end customer, we've got our, I call our principals clients just to keep things, clear and understood from marketing professionals who don't see our business every day. And then we've got these other customers who are actually, distributor channel partners. And yes, you are trying to sell to all of them, but you're also, if you're a growing organization, trying to sell to prospective employees as well. So to answer your question, Bruce, have a deep resource section on your website. That resource section is where you actually want to pull all of your customers. So you're going to have call to actions on your emails. You're going to have call to actions on your advertisements, on your LinkedIn's, on your whatever it is, even on your business card, a call to action through a QR code that's going to take them back to that resource section. It's going to have the manufacturing landing pages. It'll have data, it'll have videos, it'll have part numbers. It'll have everything that you want to show the customer for that particular manufacturer. If you have 10 manufacturers, have 10 landing pages with deep content on your website that is pulled from your manufacturer's website. Give them a reason to come and look at it. Then you're going to want the glossy stuff, or at least the stuff that promotes your systems, your people, your processes, so that a prospective principal coming to look at you is seeing more than just, this is who we sell for. And by the way, I hope at the very, very least, everybody's website shows who they're selling for. Because if you were contracted by a manufacturer to sell for them and you don't show it on your website, that's a bigger problem, I think. Anyway, having that on your website for your customers to come and go through if they have been drawn there through some call to action on an advertisement, that's for the customer. Something nice and glossy on your people processes, who you are, how you operate for the manufacturers, and then have a meaningful prospective employee page. So we've done that more recently as we recognize how hard it is to find good salespeople who know how to sell, and you can plug and play and not have to worry about a long development process. I mean, those development processes happen, and for good people, it's going to take some time, but the faster you can get up that curve, the better. So having a good, meaningful page for prospective employees is one other area. So you're right. The traditional website where people just pay a fee and get it thrown up, and maybe you change the lines as you change lines, that's really not going to get it done. You have to have a place for customers to come and hang out, get information. And, again, eventually things are going to get better in the way of data capture. But for the time being, I would say just start and talk to all the constituents, the suppliers, the customers, prospective employees.
Of course, then
Thanks,
we'll
Tim.
need to get an extra 1 or 2% to do the website manager to be adding all that content.
Right. Well, listen, I want to thank, we're at 2 past the hour. I want to be respectful of people's time. I want to really thank, Tim, Terry, and Chris. And this whole section reminds me of a quote that goes like, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with but a single step. And that single step for me is going to be enter the arena. And that's my takeaway. And I really just think this was a very insightful session. And I want to thank everybody for their time. And please take time to review the whole document on the ERA website. It's well worth the time. I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Collins, who we're going to wrap it up. Thanks very much, Tim, Chris, and Terry.
Great. Thank you, Tim. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you found the information valuable. Please note this session was recorded. A link to the recording will be posted on the ERA website at era.org under the online tools tab. You're encouraged to rewatch the session or share it with your colleagues. Our next ERA Live session will be scheduled for September. We're going to take the rest of the summer off. The date for that session is to be determined, so be on the lookout for additional information. And thanks everybody and have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.